Good evening, vinyl community. Hi, it's Rob. I'm here for Rob Sounds Strange, his 500 subscribers contest, which he's tasked us with. It's what can you say? It's terrifying. Very. Very involved, a lot of questions, a lot of stuff to stretch you, and certainly, to get your grey matter going, which, nothing wrong with a challenge. I like that. And as he said in his remit for the competition, that it's all about, it's not a raffle. It's all, a competition is winning on merit, which I totally understand. But at the same time, it's quite daunting when you realise, when you sort of break the questions down, you realise what you've what the task in hand. But leaving that aside for a moment, I'd just like to just say a little bit about Rob's channel and Rob himself. He's a fantastic guy. Yeah, I've always had an appreciation for classical music because my father was a big fan of classical music. He loved, sort of the great composers, sort of Beethoven, Mozart, etc., and particularly sort of operas like Wagner and so on. And some of which I enjoyed, some of which I endured. And some sort of seeps into the pores when you listen to this kind of music, particularly when you're a child, and as children do, they absorb music, and it sort of seeps in, and you take those influences, and some of it stays with you, and influences your tastes sort of in later years as you become an adult. But Rob really kind of rekindled a lot of that kind of interest in terms of music that wasn't just kind of pop music, or just kind of, I hate to say, use the word superficial, because I love pop music. I've always loved pop music. I love all types of music. But Rob was, is particularly interested in stuff that's not the run of the mill kind of music. He's very adventurous with his tastes, and genuinely has a love for indigenous music, classical, jazz, of course. I didn't have any interest in jazz really at all, apart from sort of some sort of vocal jazz and so on that my mum and my dad enjoy, because obviously they grew up sort of in their 20s, in the sort of 50s and early 60s. They love kind of like Ella Fitzgerald and Peggy Lee, and Nat King Cole, singers like that. So I always enjoyed the kind of vocal jazz, but certainly the more the kind of hard bop stuff, and I don't know, the tone poets or whatever. These kind of artists and stuff. I knew nothing about, but I'd heard people talk about, and sort of whisper in corners, I knew that this stuff obviously had great value and was worth investigating. And people like Rob, and Sherv, and various others on the vinyl community, they took it upon themselves um, to take time out and talk about like the Blue Note series, and so on. And you were like watching these videos, and clearly, you were being, uh, you know, uh, you know, talk, that they were describing this music in a way that was just, uh, just full of intelligence and understanding, and the knowledge and everything that came through. and it was just intriguing, and you just listened to it and you just wanted to learn more, and and it certainly piqued my interest. So much that I've started to kind of get into this stuff now. I know Rob showed, I think, this Sidewinder Lee Morgan, which then led me on to this one, which is Cornbread. And yeah, I really enjoy it, but it was great for, for Rob and Sherv and people like that to put it into context, and talk about the artists and about, the sort of backstory behind, them, so that you kind of got a real sense of who these people are, and the soul and the feel and the everything that was going into producing this music. And yeah, it just only adds to the enjoyment of listening to it. And he's Rob's, bless you, you've sent me on a course, on a journey to investigate this stuff, and I really thank you for that. Wonderful. So anyway, so enough of the enough of that, and let's get on with the composition. I'm going to be honest. I've kind of fretted about this for a number of weeks, thinking, how on earth am I going to put in an entry to this, because it just seems so unbelievably daunting on the face of it. But I just thought, oh, what the hell? Fortune favors the brave, as they say. And I just thought, well, what the hell? I commented on Sherv's video that he did the other night, and he just said, oh, just go for it, So I've tried to resist the temptation, Rob, by the way, to watch too many other entry videos. So hopefully there's no plagiarism going on here with these answers. So anyway, so let's get on with it, because you don't want to be watching me rattling on for for 30-40 minutes. Okay, so first question was, show a record with a literary connection. Okay, I think I might have shown this one before on an earlier video. This is an album by a Swedish organist by the name of Bo Hansson. And this is music inspired by The Lord of the Rings, which of course is J.R. Tolkien. I mean, when I bought this album, this album came out in about 1970. I by the time I'd kind of read Lord of the Rings, it was kind of when I was at school, so sort of like 83, 84, something like that. Obviously it was a long time before the kind of, the Peter Jackson films and so on that kind of, illustrated it all and put it all with the CGI and all the rest of it. So you had to kind of listen. You when you were listening to this music, you were kind of, it was kind of putting music to the sort of images from the book that you'd read, and the story and the characters that you knew from reading the book. You'd sort of create the images in your mind, which was a fantastic kind of form of escapism. And I always feel sorry for kind of kids these days with, so much, the films, particularly with Peter Jackson, with all the CGI and everything, and it's kind of all that imagery and everything is almost, it's all done for you. You don't really have to kind of think too much about it, as amazing and brilliantly executed as it is. When I first heard this, I didn't have the benefit of looking at the way that the book had been kind of translated into that kind of visual art form in quite that way. So you'd kind of picture it, the images, you sort of have to conjure up yourself. And the music on this, really kind of, it really kind of, it's just that sense of escapism and very atmospheric, the organ sounds and the reverb and the drums and everything. And so obviously this is quite a progressive prog rock kind of album. But yeah, it really, it was very, very haunting and kind of, just beautiful, beautiful music. And yeah, so that's Lord of the Rings, music inspired by Lord of the Rings by Bo Hansen. Okay, an album that has an artistic connection. Okay, I nearly didn't show this one, Rob, because I know you're probably going to disqualify me immediately when you see this. I did go through my collection and I desperately tried to find an album that other than this one, because I know that you've, I think on one of your very early videos, you said how much you disliked this record, but this was the only one that I could actually find with a direct artistic connection, certainly to an artist or a painter. So this is this is the Fleet Foxes' debut album, and this is, I believe, it's called Netherlandish Proverbs by Peter Bruegel the Elder. I think he's a Flemish artist. And I think it was 1559, I think this was painted. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the music because I know that you don't like the Fleet Foxes. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting that sort of Robin Pecknold chose this particular image as the cover of his album, because his brother was an artist in his own right, and produced I think produced animated films for a lot of the Fleet Foxes' early singles, but decided on Robin Pecknold decided on this because he considered it to be kind of very bucolic, or sort of pastoral and sort of pleasant. But then when you look at the kind of images and some of the stuff that's going on this painting, it's anything but kind of pastoral in some ways. So yeah, a bit of a spurious, kind of strange reasoning to choose this. But yeah, anyway, so that's that one anyway. So moving on quickly. Okay, so we've got an album with a historical reference. Okay, this is was not so much the album, but it's a track off this album. This is Gordon Lightfoot's 1976 album, Summertime Dream. And there's a song on this album which is called The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Okay, and this is kind of there's a sort of epic song that Gordon Lightfoot wrote, which is about the tragic loss of the boat called the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, which was a bulk cargo iron ore carrier that sank in November of 1975 in Lake Superior, Michigan. So I'm sure Steve Carlson knows all about this. But yeah, it's revered to be the most controversial of all shipwreck tales, because all 29 of her crew were lost on this night when the storm hit, apparently Lake Superior is the largest of all the Great Lakes, and by all accounts, the volume and the size of it is the equivalent of all the other lakes put together. So and they get great swells within there, and sort of waves up to, when the storms hit, up to waves up to sort of 30 30 feet high. So particularly perilous apparently for larger vessels like the Edmund Fitzgerald. And on this particular night, the captain in the high winds lost both radars apparently, and sent a message out to a sister ship called the Anderson to get sort of bearings, because obviously without the radar they were losing their bearings very quickly. And the storm was such that it actually sunk the ship, and the ship sunk to 530 feet down, broke in two. I think an unmanned US Navy sub was sent about 4 days after it sank, and was obviously discovered. But there was no sign of any survivors, and weirdly no bodies found at all. Which I guess adds to the mystique of the whole kind of story. So obviously Gordon Lightfoot felt moved enough by the story to write that epic song, and it is an epic song, and well worth a listen if you've not heard it. Okay, so a non-English foreign language album. Okay, this is a Tropicalia artist by the name of Yorgi Ben. And I love the Tropicalia Brazilian stuff. It's fantastic. It's very, very difficult to get hold of. I'm always on the lookout for it. Artists like Gal Costa and Caetano Veloso, and you just never see them. And originals of them, when you look online, are hideously expensive. But yeah, this is obviously sung in Portuguese. And it's an amazing album. It's two sides, both well over 20 minutes, and all the songs segue into one another, and it's like they're just almost like jamming them live in the studio. I don't think they're actually live, but just the joyous nature of this music. It's so upbeat and vibrant. I absolutely love it. I could just listen to this stuff all day, and the musicianship is just absolutely breathtaking. So that's my foreign language, and just Yorgi Ben. Okay, an album that taught me something. Okay, or taught me something about myself. Yeah, so obviously in the early 80s, I started to sort of collect music and listen to a lot of music. And like a lot of sort of teenagers at that time, I was kind of obsessed with like heavy rock because of the kind of angst and the aggression of it, like punk and stuff. It's very kind of sucks you in when, you've got all that teenage frustration and angst and so on. And but I was never, it was all about the vibe of the music, and the energy of the music, rather than the lyrical content or what the music was particularly saying to me. And then in about 1984, a good friend of mine had been to a concert and picked up an album by this guy, and this is Roy Harper. This is his 1974 live album, Flashes from the Archives of Oblivion. and this was my sort of introduction to Roy Harper. For those of you don't know, Roy Harper's kind of probably Britain's most celebrated kind of cult folk artist. He's absolutely wonderful. I've seen him about at least half a dozen times over the years, and he never fails to impress. Um, the thing that grabbed me most about this record was that because this was before I'd even heard people like Dylan and so on. An artist that kind of where I was kind of really listening to the lyrics and the words, and he just, for the first time, this was an artist that just screamed for listening to the words. He's talking about songs like just Me and My Woman, just intensely personal songs. um, you know and just Don't You Grieve, singing about Judas Iscariot and biblical references and so on. And I'd never heard anything like this before. And, it really kind of opened my eye. There was a song about anti-apartheid, like South Africa. So this really sort of opened my eyes into, sort of the sort of ills of the world, if you like. And, a guy who was just very outspoken about all these things, and just put all these things into context in a very poetic and musical way that just would just suck you in totally, because of his presentation and performance and his guitar skills, which are excellent. Yeah, I'd never heard anything like this before, and it's stayed with me, to this day. Big lover of Roy Harper. So yeah, he taught me to to sit and question things, and think about the world in a different way, and think about things that matter, um, and listening to lyrics, and trying to sort of understand them, and so on. So yeah, that was a big learning curve for me. Wonderful stuff. Okay. Okie dokie. So these are the questions now relating to Rob. I'm going to be honest, Rob, I really struggle with these. So so the first question is his favorite movie. And I believe that the clue there was that they're soundtracks to movies, and the films in question came out the year before you were born. Now I understand I think from I remember you saying that you were born in 1976. I could be wrong there, in which case I'm going to score 0 points here. But if I'm right in thinking that it's 1976, then I assume then obviously that you were born in 1975. Okay, so what two albums or films could we be talking about here? Well, I don't know. I mean, this is just pure supposition on my part. But I thought about films that you'd enjoy for the music and the artistic content and so on, and just great films that came out that year. The first one I thought of was The Who's Tommy. This isn't the soundtrack. This is the 1969 original, obviously. But I was thinking in terms of the Ken Russell film that came out in 1975. But I mean, it's not the greatest film in the world, I know that. But the soundtrack and the music is obviously fantastic. So yeah, so again, I could be completely wrong there, but that's my first one. The second one I thought of was the Milos Forman film from that year, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't know. I mean, Jack Nicholson. It's a fantastic film. It's certainly one of my favorite films from that year. And the theme for that is kind of quite weird. It's quite strange and left of field, I just thought it might be the kind of sort of thing that would kind of catch your ear, because I know you like stuff that's a bit left of center, sort of strange orchestration, modern classical kind of thing, and it's kind of got that sort of feel to it. So I don't know. I could be completely wide of the mark there, but there you go. Okay. So composers that you have the most records of. Obviously, you gave us a clue there with the same letter of the alphabet. Okay, I remember you doing a video. I know you said the clues aren't in your videos, but I remember you saying that you did a video about Beethoven and saying how difficult it is for modern composers to kind of escape the the influence of Beethoven, because his influence was so big. And I just figured that because you'd clearly you'd appreciate Beethoven, and obviously he's done some incredible work, that you would probably have most. I don't think he did, what, 9 symphonies, did he? And I imagine you would have a majority of his work. And I also remember that you said that you quite like string quartets as well. That's kind of a favorite of yours. And when I looked, I found out from Google that he'd actually done 16 string quartets. So I thought, well, that was reasonable. So I thought, well, B, who would the other one be? I seem to remember you mentioning Brahms as being quite somebody that a composer that you appreciate and you quite like. Obviously, in terms of string quartets, I think he only did 3, so obviously quite a lot less. Yeah. So anyway, that's that. I'm sorry, I'm rattling on here. So yeah, that's Beethoven and Brahms. I'm going to go for as the answer to that. Okay, so what album inspired you to start playing the guitar? And I know you mentioned that you started learning the guitar. You decided to start playing the guitar in 1990, but for some reason I just thought, well, because of the artists and people that you've talked about, I thought, well, it probably wouldn't be somebody contemporary from that kind of era. So I've elected I couldn't decide whether it was either going to be Bert Jansch or John Remborn. So what I've decided to do is go for this one, which is their 1966 collaboration, I think, where the two of them are kind of playing on this. So yeah, I know you've mentioned that you like Bert Jansch. So, but yeah. Anyway, so I would figure that he would be the kind of artist that would inspire you to learn the guitar. So there you go. Okay. So obviously the last part was the 5 songs that you played for your mystery artist. Okay, I'm going to be honest, I've really, really struggled with this one. Although I think the first one that you played was English Rose, I think, from Ormod Cons. Yeah, I had to actually double check this, because I think Weller was so embarrassed about writing that song that he didn't actually put the song on the album. It's obviously on the label, but not on the sleeve. So, but yeah, that descending motif that you played on the guitar, I recognised that immediately. The other, so I immediately came to the conclusion that it was Paul Weller. The other ones, I'm going to be honest with you, Rob, and I'm sure it's not because of your playing, because I think you guitar playing is pretty good, but I didn't recognise those, so I can only assume that they're solo Paul Weller stuff that I'm not familiar with, or Style Council maybe. So kind of after the jam, that was kind of where I am really with Paul Weller anyway. But yeah, so that's it, Rob. Well, we're up to 30 minutes. Oh my God, I've gone far too long as usual. So anyway, many congratulations again, Rob, on your 500 plus subscribers. I'm sure you'll be up to 1,000 before we know it, and it'll be well deserved, because you know you're a real asset to the VC, and please don't consider stop making videos, because you know the stuff you do is fabulous, and it's really educational, and it's a joy whenever you upload. So all the very best, Rob, and yeah, thanks for putting this nightmare of a of a competition together. I don't know how I've performed on this, but what the hell, it was fun to do anyway. So all the best, Rob. Take care. Bye bye.